Welcome, everybody, to Stay Curious. I'm your host, Mark Marquette. So glad you've joined us again to hear a tremendous program by Mr. Eric Baker beside me. Hi, Eric.
Howdy.
It better be tremendous. But Eric is a test project engineer, so that's a good start. T. And he's a docent here at the museum. Spent 30 years in the shuttle
Yep.
program. And Eric has done several of these programs. Quickly, what's a test project engineer?
We provided technical oversight in the orbiter space shuttle firing room so that as all of the multiple systems worked, our job was to make sure that everyone played well together in the sandbox, technically.
And I like that analogy as the sandbox is our green screen here. One of the, where is this?
You're looking at the firing room 4 in the Launch Control Center. And this, of course, was one of the firing rooms that they used for the Apollo program, but that the images behind us at the moment used to be large rear projection displays for data for the test conductors to look at during Apollo. We didn't use that system on Shuttle, and right now you can see 5 big displays of the orbiters we flew into space and the missions that we were associated with each orbiter.
And we're going to copy that above our fueling station consoles we have in some form. I'll get your input on that, but we've got patches of all the missions, and I want to lay them out up above there with a picture of each orbiter doing something in its wonderful from launch to landing there. So, Eric, we're going to try to keep this at about an hour or less, as I've got to scoot out of here and go to a 6:07 human space flight premiere at the Melbourne Independent Filmmakers Festival. And Jay Honeycutt did a 28-minute documentary on NASA human space flight. We will show it at the appropriate time. We're trying to milk it for some money that Jay wanted to put it together for us. So, so we're going to be doing that. And if you're local, show up. It's in Melbourne at the Premier Theater Oaks, out there in the upper right-hand corner there. NASA Legends Dinner, November 5th with Mr. Bob Seek. I believe you said you wanted to come to that.
Yes, I do.
Bob was your boss, kind of?
He was launch director, so he was the boss of everyone.
Not a bossy boss either.
No, he was very personable. But like just about all of the people that we had as our chief engineers and stuff, they were very supportive of the team. But the number one rule was give them the straight information. Don't try to blow smoke or BS anywhere near them, because usually they're getting their information from multiple sources. And if you try to tell him something that he already knows is not true, you're in the dumpster. So,
all right. Bob Seek, you can't write the space shuttle era without talking about this man, can you?
Nope, because he was the launch director for many years, and from what I understand, he came out of meteorology.
He did.
And
the Gemini program. He was a meteorologist for the Air Force.
As he was getting ready to give the go for launch, it got to the point where we referred to him as the Go Bobs. And he would ask each of the test conductors and other major stakeholders, "Are you go?" And he would say, they would say, "Go Bob." So when he got to the weather guy, that weather guy better not mess with him, because he knew what he was talking about, meteorology.
All right, we got Marty Winkle waving at us there, Eric, and he's got a question from one of our fine viewers today. Go ahead, Marty.
Well, we have 2 questions from 2 fine viewers. First question from RG Jubilee. Eric, why do you have skunks all over your shirt?
Well, because I worked as a contractor for Lockheed. They were our processing contractor, And these are not just any skunks, these are the skunks from the Lockheed Advanced Projects Office Skunk Works.
Excellent.
It is not Pepe Le Pew.
No, but it's for Skunk Works, and he's got some great T-shirts that he wears. So I'm contrasting it with my star vest. Go ahead, Marty.
Okay, second question was from somebody I think is new. It's from Who the 1976. And what he's asking is what would have happened if one of the hold down bolts would not have exploded at liftoff? Would the space shuttle have blown up on the launch pad?
No, because we had hang fire on at least one solid rocket motor hold down bolt, and it just doesn't care. It just tears it apart. It's not as controlled the pieces parts.
Exactly what I've heard, and Marty will chime in here just a second. Great question there. He's alluding to he probably saw the Who rock and roll band in 1976, Marty. One of their great years out there. Yes, he's right. In fact, many times, not all 8 hold down bolts went, and the power of those SRBs just ripped them out of there. Now, Marty, you did have a nightmare similar to his Apollo nightmare. He admitted that he had this bad dream, and you want to share that?
On shuttle or Apollo?
Well, I guess it
Shuttle.
pertains to the 1976's question there about your shuttle worry.
I don't know what it has to do with 1976, but
Our questioner is his moniker's Who 1976.
right,
He's asking about the hold down bolts.
right.
What
All
was
right.
your bad dream
But
about?
you
hold down?
had a bad dream about the SRBs.
Okay,
in
that I
general.
understand, but I thought you had something. It was something to do with 1976. I'm
No,
sorry.
that's
okay.
the gentleman or woman who's
I think,
that's her handle.
I think my nightmare is probably similar to a lot of other people, and I'm guessing Eric probably had something very similar, where the shuttle booster and external tank all took off, and for some reason it just started to pitch over and came right nose down into the ocean. And I've had that nightmare or dream several times.
Cartwheel and
I had a somewhat similar, except that it was for some reason there was a full shuttle stack at the sail laboratory, and it fell over.
Jeez.
That I don't think would happen.
Well, no, but that was the only dream I had of, and it was very slow motion. Just it fell over like why is there an entire shuttle stack in the sail laboratory, and why is it falling so slowly?
All right, we're gonna great. We love chit chatting around here today. We do want to kind of get out of here on time. And so I'm going to just remind you that we have a memorabilia show here November 8th at the Hyatt Place, Hotel. We've got all of our vendors lined up for that. So just show up and have a good time. But be sure and bring a bag full of money. And you've been to our shows before. So
I came to the very first one, I believe, when we actually had the online auctioneer here in our classroom.
Yeah. We certainly did. We certainly did. So
Marty was selling stuff out in the lobby or in the parking lot, as I recall.
okay. Shh. We don't want to tell them about that. Okay. Let's Hyatt Place is our sponsor today. The Hyatt Place, your place to stay next to Kennedy Space Center. It's right there on the 405, and it's a nice place, very affordable. And we've had 4 shuttle fests, and several other events there. So, also we're going to have a auction a week from Saturday, 40th memorabilia auction. Yes, you're going to want to see stuff about that. Okay, and we'll be talking about that ad nauseum next week, but not ad nauseum. This is an important fundraiser for us, and people want to know. And boy, these models, there's about a dozen models in there that are really contractors' models, Eric.
Speaking of ad nauseum, though,
Yeah.
early spell checkers for word processing programs at the Space Center,
Yeah.
they would try to correct things. If you typed in NASA, it would try to change it to nausea.
That's good. Huh. So you had to get that IT guy to change that. Okay. Um, our artifact of the day that we like showing. Uh, Look at this baby. What do you think this is? Okay. What is this? Okay. Well, it's a motor, obviously. Okay. Don't see anything where any tubes can go into it for liquid, except up here at the top, maybe. Eric, hold that up there while I tell everybody that that is a posi-grade serpentine separation rocket, okay, used in Mercury. 3 posi-grade rocket motors propelled the Mercury crew capsule abruptly forward to separate the capsule from the sustainer engine after cutoff, built by Thiokol Chemical Corp. So this is sort of a CSI sometimes as well. Mercury, sustainer motors. Well, the Redstone didn't have that, but the Atlas did.
Yes, it did.
So this was this when the two side engines fell off, the third sustainer quit. This separated them by shoving the capsule forward on there. So this is not, of course, a working model. This was a extra model on there, and it's also solid rocket. Okay, so that had to be quite a jolt there. So that's our artifact of the day here at the American Space Museum. I'll put it over there and put it back on display, and wipe it down with alcohol to get my greasy fingers off of it, I guess. All right, we got the auction coming up. Wanted to brag about you doing a great job today. We had a bunch of early visitors today. We had even some bikers in from as it's Bike Week,
Biketoberfest.
Biketoberfest, and so that's a lot of fun around here. I've been hearing motorcycles all day long going up one south here. So you do a great job, Eric, and like all docents that I listen to. No two docents do the same tour alike, okay? And I love picking out, we all kind of do the same tour as far as the eras and the galleries progress, but you point out the dials, and I usually point out the little tabs that you got to pull out, but I kind of forget about the dials, and people don't see dials like that like they used to.
Yeah.
And also, you point out one of my favorite things was the time was kept with individual bulbs, and then switched to LED.
And those aren't actually bulbs; they're vacuum tubes.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're called Nixie tubes. And they basically, if someone is old enough to remember old TVs and radios, or if you have very high-end audio equipment, they still use vacuum tube technology because it gives you better sound. But each vacuum tube has a little heater in it that helps the operation of the amplifier. Except that what I'm pointing to in the display here is, instead of a heater element, it's 10 filaments shaped like the numbers 0 through 9. And so the signal to that vacuum tube lit up a specific number, so you could display a digital number prior to liquid crystal displays or LEDs.
Now think of the LED. Excellent description. I love that, and I'll the way you. I hope I can remember that my next tour in our Cape Canaveral gallery there. The reel-to-reel behind you. The red is the warning light on top of the service structure at Pad 36 for these Atlas 2 rockets with a Titan. A Centaur second stage. But what the story one of the old timers told me is that he was used to these tube timing mechanisms, and when he saw an LED screen in 1959 for the first time, he said, I couldn't wait to go home and tell my wife that I saw time being kept in midair, because an LED looked to him like midair. And think about that. That's kind of a good thing there. So thank you for the good job you do, a faithful docent, and we've got a good dozen now that we can rely on. So happy birthday real quick to Mae Jemison, the first African-American woman to go to space. on STS-47. That was a shuttle of last month, I believe. That was in 1992. She was born in Decatur, Alabama, October 17th, 1956. So she is 69 years old today, and she has been out since since her retirement from NASA, promoting space to everyone, particularly minorities. And very interesting lady. She did a Star Trek Next Generation appearance several
Oh,
times.
cool.
Are you a Trekkie or Star Wars?
I'm more of a Trekkie. The
Okay.
I like both of them, but I was, you know, I was raised on the original Star Trek.
Yep,
So,
as I was. There's Mae Jameson. Hope she's having a big day today. And she went up on the Japanese module situation there. Well, shuttles of the month of October. Okay, number 12. Pam Melroy had three flights in October. That's very interesting. Uh, you uh, were the caretaker, so to speak, of OV 103 Discovery, which, by the way, you wrote a letter to the editor in Aviation Week and Space Technology, poo-pooing that ever moving. But there was something in the news about it today or this month, or this week. They still think it's going to happen.
eh,
And yeah, good. We'll talk about that later. Anyway, some great missions there. Endeavour was shut out. It never flew in October, but Columbia 3 times, Challenger twice, Discovery 4, and Atlantis 3 times. So you were busy in the month of October for 4 missions there. Any of those stick out?
Well,
Something that you just remember about?
STS 95,
Yeah,
the flying
that right.
You-
Yeah, John Young.
John Glenn.
Glenn, yeah, John Glenn.
So that was his
Age 77.
second trip into space. And
As we push the envelope in our solar orbits, can you believe 77? I know Marty's fit to go to space, but I'm not even close to 77 in my mind, but no, I couldn't do it. Anyway, here's our control room. I'm going to turn Eric loose by saying last week he did an excellent show showing you these complicated charts that were the daily flow chart of activity that had to be done on a day-to-day, even an hour-to-hour basis on there. And you've wanted to share this with us, so
well,
take it away.
We started last week with basically OPF, Orbiter Processing Facility, hangar ops, where from landing the vehicle, processing the vehicle, and then rolling it out to stack it for a full space shuttle stack. And we had an excellent question from one of the viewers if I knew what a PERT chart was. And a PERT chart is a specific type of scheduling system that was developed in the 1950s. I said I did not know, but I went and looked it up. And what we actually use were referred to as Gantt charts. And that was named after a Mr. Gantt in the early 1900s for scheduling purposes. And that's the type of charts that we use. Gantt charts can be developed from PERT charts, but PERT charts are basically for determining time critical activities.
Mm-hmm.
We did a lot of things that were time critical, but it was the actual schedule that the hazards were loaded in. Now on our screen right now is the 4-10 day schedule, and this was for the vehicle assembly building, which is where you would take your orbiter and roll it out, lift it up, and attach it to the external tank. And so you can see that on this particular chart, the main activity is called SU4, and that's in the middle. Let's see. Well, I can't.
Yeah, we're not going to read it, but it's.
But
in the
anyway,
thing.
it's
Yeah.
that's the orbiter to ET mate procedure.
Okay.
If a procedure
Next
has
time
a
I'll
has a
focus in on
if
some
it
of
has a
these.
giant S on it, that stands for shuttle, as opposed to a V for a vehicle, which is like an orbiter procedure would have a V on it,
Mhm.
and the but that's SU4 is the
19, what year is this?
this is well it's 87
Okay.
because that came from the kick schedule that Marty had for the 29th of January 87,
Right.
the day after.
And kick schedule means,
KIC stands for Kennedy Integrated Control Schedule.
okay. So yeah, what we want our reviewers to know is it was a complicated system, but it was hand done, old school with printing presses, literally, small little printing shops set up to crank these things out on a daily basis.
Now our next one,
That one I did make a copy.
the next one is the Integrated Ops Schedule, and this is the big overview for, in this case, Orbiter 102, showing it the last week or so of the OPF schedule, how much time it was going to spend in the VAB. You generally only spend 2 or 3 days there until you have been mated to the external tank, and then you verify all the connections, and then you're ready to roll it out to the pad.
I believe that's Astro 1 mission, which was called 61E for a while, until after Shuttle.
They had that
Challenger.
whole strange 61E was because they were planning on launching from Vandenberg, and they wanted to be able to keep track of which orbiter was at which site, and it also, by going to that particular number system, as far as I'm concerned, it made it harder to see if you were out of order.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sure did. The 6 was the fiscal year 1986. The 1 is Kennedy. There would have been a 2 there if it was launched from Vandenberg with nothing ever was, and A, B, C, D, E type of thing. And then they abandoned that after the 25th shuttle disaster, and they went from 26 to 135 afterwards. So they got discombobulated quite a bit from that 90s to 120s. Now, this is something you'd have in the firing room, you told me.
right now, this is basically associated with any major OMI or operations maintenance instruction. And this is basically like the approval page for a launch countdown. In this case, it's for STS-132, and you can see the signature requirements, and down at the 4th line is where I basically would sign it,
TPE.
because, and we basically did it electronically by this point. So,
There's your TPE there.
but the NTD is the NASA test director, and then you had the OTC orbiter test conductor, TBC tank booster conductor, TPE. SPE was my was the shuttle processing engineer. That was the NASA, that was just above my counterpart, which was the OPE for orbiter processing engineer, and then safety, and then STM. What was STM?
I'm not sure.
That was one of the support sign-offs.
Shuttle
Could have been.
team member.
Then payload ops, payload test director, payload test conductor, and flow manager. So
12 people. Interesting.
and this right here is just for the schedule. Before you could even do this schedule, every time you had a procedure, or especially if you had an anomaly, the first thing they ask is, what is the constraint? Whatever the anomaly is for whatever level of procedure you're working on, when you have something that is out of family, or maybe broken, maybe not, you pick up a documentation piece of paper called an interim problem report. And the first thing they're going to ask you is, what is the constraint? That is, what is this preventing from happening? It could be a constraint to the next step in his whatever procedure he was doing that went awry or gave him an anomalous indication. Or it could be it may be not a constraint to continuing, but a constraint to completion of the task, or a constraint to a follow-on task of some sort. And so all of those constraints are kept track of by quality. And every time you go into the firing room to do a procedure, the first thing you have to do is address the constraints list for your procedure. Even if you're powering up the vehicle for daily testing, you have to go in and verify there are no constraints against today's power up, because something might have happened last night. You know, the launch processing system could have a problem, a console could be down, but you have to sign off that constraints list. In addition to the constraints list, every major, especially major procedures, have what are called pre-ops. These are pre-operations that have to be completed prior to the call to stations. A call to stations is when everybody gathers for that big procedure, especially something as important as launch countdown.
Very good, very good. We're glad you're all watching this today. Steve Jokum says he stood right in that very room and on a tour before. Cliff Watson, hello guys. I hope you're doing good, Cliff. Hope you saw yesterday's show when we gave you in Pomona a salute. You want to check that out. And my daughter Jessie and granddaughters Bop and Scoots there. They like your skunks on your shirt there, which is, as he answered the question earlier from was that yes, they're Skunk Works, top secret development,
Advanced projects,
advanced projects
office
on
of
there.
Lockheed.
Yeah.
Everybody has a advanced projects office nowadays, and they generally tag on the title Works.
Okay.
The NASA has their advanced projects activity at KSC is called the Swamp Works, where they do a lot of innovative stuff. And the McDonald and eventually Boeing bought McDonald. They had what was called the Phantom Works, and they're one of the logos that they used for like the old Phantom F4. All of their military planes for McDonald were based on ghosts and goblins and demons and stuff like that. So their version of the Swamp Works was the Phantom Works, and now that's part of Boeing. So
Great.
if
Always great history lesson on the companies from Eric Baker here. Been involved with this museum quite a while. Yeah, Rosalie was asking about the skunks earlier there. So, all right, we got a few more charts just to impress upon you that this was the daily work, or you know, everyone had to look at this to know what was going on with this whole gigantic management world of the space shuttle.
Now, the next couple charts, and we've only cherry picked some of the few of
12 in this.
15 pages of charts just for launch countdown. The launch countdown took about 4.5 days. And as you go through the chart, you can see that you're working in 10-minute increments vertically, and then they can go down on, like the last one, you're in 1-minute increments. So it basically goes from a wide picture to a narrower and narrower. And as you look at the
Kind
page,
of emphasizes it this way as you look at me go through it there.
but you can see that there are basically 4 sections. One is the critical path, significant tasks. Then you have some stuff for the ETSRB, which is because
Broke up. Here's my hands in section 2.
yeah,
Section 1 above it, section 2, section 3, section 4. the big dark line there.
Now the reason the ET and the SRB don't have bigger sections is because the program offloaded as much from those portions of the shuttle vehicle, especially the ET, because we throw it away. There was only a handful of sensors in it and a few things in the intertank area, but everything that you could put into the orbiter related to the ET you did, because that way there was less to throw away.
Mm-hmm.
And the solid rocket motors were a little bit more intricate because they had hydraulics and pumps and thrusters and things like that, and of course all the parachute stuff. But all of that stuff was pretty quiescent until you light the fire in the solids at T0. So you don't see a whole lot of information in here because the loading of the propellants is for the solids is done earlier in the pad flow.
Mm-hmm.
But you can get down into support and you'll see black bars and bars with different kinds of slanty lines going in different directions, and all that indicated different hazard levels for that activity and who was responsible for it. There's a whole section where they're getting ready to rotate the rotating service structure from around the vehicle, because that's there for weather protection until late in the count, and then you get it out of the way to the park position. And the only thing that's really...
That's this part right in here he's talking
Yeah.
about. I know you can't read it and see it, just impressing upon you that every little thing going on has to be relatable to the whole team.
Yeah.
So you know in the flow, are they ahead or behind? Did you ever get ahead?
Every once in a while, well, you didn't really get ahead. Sometimes they would say, well, we're going to pull this in, but you had to be very, very careful. One of the early problems we had prior to STS-1, there was basically an industrial accident where several people died because they got out of order because they were trying to get ahead of something. And during the
And
countdown...
they died walking into the aft, and there was nitrogen purge in there.
Correct.
So people know, I actually know one of the wives
Yeah.
that lost their life
So,
there. But
You know,
that's, for those you don't know, it's a very historic.
you
bad
had to,
accident.
you know, and that added a whole nother layer of training of, you know, and they added oxygen sensors in both the crew module, in the aft, in the white rooms, so that just, you know, from a lessons learned, don't take especially hazardous stuff out of sequence.
There you go. Excellent lesson. The last two Stay Curious we've had you on Fridays in a row about what the space worker went through, and you had to have you had to have a lot of attention to detail, no matter what your job was.
And you had to do it every time.
Yeah.
When you're working with high energy systems, you know, complacency is just, there's no place for complacency. And one of the things that especially like for SpaceX, they're launching at a much higher rate than we are, but still every single one of those launches is just as dangerous. And especially when they put people on them, or you're flying over populated areas when you launch from Texas. You have to understand what you're doing, and you have to do it 100% correctly every single time.
And for the most part, that's in every discipline down the line, including today's space ages there. So
The space agencies, any industrial site, they just had a terrible accident at a munitions plant in Tennessee.
yes.
And that particular plant had supposedly been written up several times for various, you know, things not to standards. And there was one of the articles recently talking about the people that could bring anything to light about what happened, unfortunately, were killed in the explosion.
Huh.
So,
Yes, procedures, and NASA is one of the institutions that early on created these checks and balances and oversight, because going to space is so important, so dangerous and detailed. Marty, you got a quick question there.
Well, we got a question from RG Jubilee. Why did they call it the Skunk Works?
they called it the Skunk Works because their original office at one of the airports in, might have been Burbank Airport, but their office was separate from the main plant for Lockheed, was next to a plastics factory that stunk terribly. And at the
Really?
time, there was a comic strip that was like the Doonesbury of the day called Little Abner.
Oh yeah,
And the people in
Daisy
Dog
Bay.
Patch in Little Abner drank a liquor called Kickapoo Joy Juice, who was made by two individuals at this still outside of Dog Patch called the Skunk Works because it smelled really bad. And they were accused of occasionally sweetening up the Kickapoo Joy Juice by throwing skunks into it. So because this Lockheed office was next to this plastics plant, they started answering the in-house phone with Skunk Works. And
All right.
that's where the name came from.
Thank you for asking, Rosalie. There, Marty, I see Mostly Parked has another good question.
When did documentation go digital?
It was in about the last third they started doing the schedules and stuff online. So it had to have been in and around 2000, 2005.
Mm-hmm.
So we had paper products for tracking, like every time we demated a connector, we had to retest all those pins prior to like vehicle rollout of the OPF. If we had to demate a connector while we were in the VAB or at the pad, then you had to be very careful because you might not be able to retest everything. And all of that was tracked on paper initially and called the SIG system, or Connector Integrity Group. And they took that digital with a system called SCAN, where they could keep track of it on a computer spreadsheet type program. And eventually they were able to fold that into a system that Lockheed still uses, that my brother-in-law, Rick Horner, worked on for Shuttle, where they were able to do an automated version of as much retest as they could based on, okay, the connector's been remated, all of these signals in the data feed are now working, and we can sign them off electronically. So
I think Jim Tully, one of our docents, helped develop the scan system.
yeah.
Excellent. Well, what a show with Eric again. Some behind the scenes of the shuttle control room, the firing room. Thank you so much, Eric. We, of course, it's all about getting that beautiful stack of fuel tank, SRBs and orbiter up in space. And I always like that shot from the remote camera there. And thank you so much, man. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
We'll figure out something else to do, as he likes sharing what he learned, his career there, like so many of you do. We've got a whole slate of guests next week lined up, from Bob Granath to Terry White. We've got there you go, Marty. Yeah.
Terry
And-
might know. He might know if the planning and scheduling people use those PERT charts at all,
Okay.
because he was a little bit.
We'll ask him that when he comes on next Thursday. We got Terry scheduled, so on the 20th. So October flying by. Hope that it's beautiful weather wherever you're at. We've had some good break from the rain, and fingers crossed, no hurricanes near the peninsula this season, with about 4 weeks left to go. So the moon is 26 days old, Marty. 26-day-old moon. When you're talking like an astronomer. And if it's 29 and a half days between phases, this means the moon is what?
Waning.
No, it's waxing.
No, waxing gets
waning.
bigger.
No, that's right. Waning. It is waning. Yes, you're right.
Because as the moon gets bigger, there's more surface area, and you got to wax it to keep it,
It's
shining.
a thin crescent before sunrise. All right. So get out, those of you that get up early, you'll be enjoying that. That means the whole evening and even after midnight is free of moonshine and just filled with starshine. So this is a great weekend to get out if you love camping, RVing, and so forth. Be sure and get away from that campfire and the card game underneath your beautiful tent out there, and just let the eyes adjust for 10-15 minutes, and then start looking around, and you're going to see the big beautiful Milky Way overhead. I guarantee you'll see a lot of satellites also. Invariably you're going to see a half a dozen satellites just standing out an hour, and those are planes blink, have colored lights, satellites, stars twinkle. So so it's going to be a beautiful weekend, and I've been getting some starshine this week, and the planet Saturn is up, as is Jupiter, after midnight. So we'll be talking about that next week on Staying Star Curious. So thank you so much for doing a great show today. I'm off to go see Jay Honeycutt's A Brief History of NASA's Human Spaceflight at this film festival in Melbourne.
They have a space surfer there?
They may have a space surfer there. You never know.
That's what the person is holding.
Yeah.
Says.
It's a space theme. So we're right on board there, and we're very honored. I say, because I'm one of the co-producers on this with Mr. Honeycutt. He wanted to raise money for the museum, and I assembled a lot of the images that we use. And Total Media Productions took it to the next level, so we will be showing it to you, I guarantee you, here within the next few months. So thank you everybody for watching. Cliff Watson, love to you, brother. Hang in there. Carlton Bailey, hope you enjoy your weekend. He had a busy one at one of those Comic-Con memorabilia shows in Melbourne. My daughter Jessie and granddaughters McKinley and Macy, hope you're carving a pumpkin this weekend, I hope. Doug Forrest is in Los Angeles. Thank you, Doug. Gary Gerald's in Georgia. Tom Celentano in Connecticut. Dean Babcock is in Illinois. Mostly parked? Not sure. But make sure you feed the meter, okay? Who, the 1976, thank you for joining our social gathering here today. Mark Thel, always a knowledgeable guest, and we appreciate your comments, Mark. Tommy Usiak in Pennsylvania. Mitch Rothman is in Colorado. RG Jubilee, she's in the Merritt Island area there. And Steve Jokums up in Illinois. Hope everyone is enjoying a wonderful time. Steve Jokums is, in fact, your Lake County Spaceport, where you can get decals and other accessories for your models. Look him up on Facebook or Lake County Spaceport website there. So another one of our great sponsors. So everyone be safe, be happy, enjoy the fall. And again, thanks to our friend Eric Baker, not only for appearing on Stay Curious, but being such a dependable docent and doing a great job of that. So until next time, I'm Mark Marquette saying thank you for visiting Stay Curious, and I can't wait to see you again to bridge the space between us.